In this post-apocalyptic world, where a lethal virus has wiped out all humans except for children aged 13 and younger, the remaining survivors find themselves under the protection of Krul-Teeps, the third progenitor vampire. The children are placed under the custody of the vampires, who require their blood in exchange for their care and protection. For 4 years, the children have been living in this new reality, dependent on the vampires for their survival. The children's lives are now intertwined with the vampire society as they strive to adapt and find a sense of purpose in this post-pandemic world. In a world controlled by vampires, the main character, Yuukaru, becomes tired of being treated like a slave. He wants to fight back, but his best friend, Michaela, tries to calm him down. Michaela believes that as long as they stay under the vampire's watch, they'll be safe and able to live with their family. However, Yuukaru refuses to accept being treated like an animal. He wants to escape the vampire's control and live a free life. In a sudden turn of events, 2 guards appear and start harassing a young girl, which ignites Yuukaru's anger. Unable to tolerate their behavior, he intervenes and demands that they apologize. However, one of the guards nearly kills him before Farid Bathory, a powerful vampire noble, arrives on the scene. Michaela handles the situation cautiously and agrees to accompany Farid to his mansion later that night. Afterward, Michaela reveals to Yuukaru that Farid offers him anything he desires in exchange for his blood. Yuukaru, frustrated and concerned for his friend's safety, punches him and warns him to be cautious. Later, Yuukaru meets Akane, a fellow member of the Hyakuya orphanage, who invites him to a family dinner. During the evening, Yuukaru visits other members of his Hyakuya orphanage family, and Akane prepares a delicious curry with Michaela's assistance, who provided the ingredients. However, Yuukaru refrains from eating his portion, choosing to wait for Michaela's return. When Michaela finally arrives, an argument ensues between the 2 friends. To their surprise, Michaela hands Yuukaru a knife and reveals a map he had stolen from Farid's mansion. He unveils his plan to escape with all the members of the Hyakuya orphanage. Suddenly, Akane wakes up, and Michaela instructs her to wake the other children as they prepare to leave. Later, as they make their way toward their escape, Farid appears and interrupts their progress. Yuukaru tries to fight Farid, but his attacks prove ineffective as Farid effortlessly dodges them. Tragically, Farid kills all the members of the Hyakuya orphanage. In a selfless act, Michaela sacrifices his own life to assist Yuukaru, who manages to shoot a bullet into Farid's head before fleeing. In the aftermath, Yuukaru encounters Ikono's Guren, the lieutenant colonel of the Moon Demon Company, an elite vampire extermination unit within the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Guren informs Yuukaru that he will be the one to lead the charge in eradicating the vampires. Overwhelmed with emotions, Yuukaru embraces Guren. 4 years pass, and Yuukaru joins the ranks of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. However, the haunting memories of his family's tragic demise continue to torment him. Regrettably, his rebellious nature leads to his suspension from duty for disobeying orders, even though he took action to address the issue at hand. At school, Yuukaru encounters Shinoa Hiragi, a surveillance officer from the army. Much to his surprise, she warns him that if he continues to act uncooperatively, she will report him to the army, further extending his suspension. Additionally, she reveals that his suspension will only be lifted if he manages to make at least one friend. The scene then shifts to a flashback, where Guren explains that the lethal virus drastically reduced the human population and unleashed monstrous creatures known as the Trumpets of the Apocalypse upon the world. However, Guren believes in the strength of humanity and aims for his organization, the Moon Demon Company, to rise above all others. Their goal is to gather the remaining survivors and seize control of the entire planet. Guren offers Yuukaru the opportunity to join him, but Yuukaru reveals that Guren has neglected him for the past 4 years. Yuukaru expresses his frustration at being left behind by Guren, feeling abandoned and neglected. Shinoa acknowledges his pain and reveals, according to Guren, the loss of his family has made him hesitant to form close connections with others. She understands that his past experiences have shaped his current reluctance to trust and rely on people, but Yuukaru refuses to make any friends. Then, she hands him a letter from Guren that says there's no place for friendless and unloved virgins like him in the army. The only way to get enlisted is by making a friend. Later, Yuukaru notices a boy named Saito Yoichi being bullied by Yamanaka. Initially, he hesitates to intervene, but eventually, he decides to help Yoichi without resorting to violence. After assisting him, Yu Uekairu learns that Yoichi is being targeted by Yamanaka because he needs to ask him for a favor. Yoichi, who failed the Demon Army entrance exam, approaches Yu Uekairu seeking his help in securing a spot in the Moon Demon Company. Yoichi shares his desire for revenge, as his sister sacrificed herself to save him. However, Yu Uekairu advises him to avoid dangerous activities and departs. Suddenly, the school is invaded by a female vampire, prompting Yu Uekairu to spring into action and confront her. Despite his relentless attacks, the vampire regenerates her body parts effortlessly. Amid the chaos, Yamanaka, who had deceived others about his army membership, crosses paths with Yu Uekairu. Meanwhile, the female vampire targets another student, but Yoichi bravely steps in to save Yu Uekairu. Fortunately, Guren arrives just in time and eliminates the vampire. Surprisingly, due to Yoichi's friendship with Yu Uekairu, Guren orders Shinoa to lift Yu Uekairu's suspension and reveals that both Yu Uekairu and Yoichi have been accepted into the Moon Demon Army. Yu Uekairu chooses to ignore the love letter he received from the girl he saved, as his focus is on his training for the extermination unit. Shinoa informs him that the training has already commenced and it is the path that will lead him to achieve his true desires. She introduces him to her contracted demon, Shikamadauji, which takes the form of a scythe. Yu Uekairu recognizes Shikamadauji as one of the cursed weapons designed to kill vampires. Intrigued by the power of Shinoa's weapon, Yu Uekairu engages in a sparring match with her. However, Shinoa effortlessly demonstrates the strength of her cursed gear and defeats him. Later, they encounter Yoichi, who is being chased by Yamanaka and his friend. Yamanaka pleads with Yoichi to allow him to become his subordinate, but Yoichi refuses. Surprisingly, Yamanaka reveals that their mutual friend, Yuuji, entered the Forbidden Chamber and never returned. Shinoa explains that the Forbidden Chamber is a restricted area under the surveillance of the army, and Yuuji may have been captured by them. Shinoa explains that the Forbidden Chamber is a training facility for members of the Vampire Extermination Unit. It is designed in a way that inexperienced individuals who enter the chamber may become possessed by a demon. She leads Yu Uekairu and Yoichi through an underground shrine, revealing that long ago, there was a vast space beneath Shibuya to prevent river flooding. The Vampire Extermination Unit decided to designate this space as their training area. The entire school they are in serves as a training area for the unit. The purpose of the school is to hold a demon underground, and those who are unaffected by its evil energy are eventually recruited into the unit. Essentially, the school is part of a large-scale human experiment. As they reach their destination, Yu Uekairu impulsively jumps in to claim the axe from the possessed Yuuji. However, Shinoa intervenes and warns Yu Uekairu that his heart is weak, cautioning him against touching a cursed gear with his bare hands. She explains that doing so would make him susceptible to possession as well. Yu Uekairu disregards Shinoa's advice and successfully disarms the possessed Yuuji. However, he becomes ensnared in a hallucination where he imagines having dinner with all the members of the Hyakuya orphanage. In his vision, Michaela encourages him to seek revenge. Determined, Yu Uekairu manages to break free from the illusion and exorcise the demon without relying on a contract spell. Impressed by his strength, Shinoa informs Yu Uekairu that Guren will now grant him a weapon. Meanwhile, in the Vampire City, it is revealed that both Michaela and Farid are alive, despite the events that had taken place previously. In the flashback, it is revealed that Michaela became a vampire after drinking the blood of Krull Teeps, the vampire queen. Krull taunts Farid for being shot by a human child despite being a powerful seventh progenitor. Farid, however, attempts to rebel against Krull, but she quickly slashes his arm and defeats him effortlessly, asserting her superiority. Returning to the present at the school, Yu Uekairu engages in a brawl with a student with pink hair, resulting in him receiving a few bruises from the altercation. Later, Yu Uekairu and Yoichi join Shinoa for their first day of training. She leads them to Lieutenant Colonel Guren's class, where they are introduced to the entire class. To everyone's surprise, Yu Uekairu declares that he has no intention of making friends and that he will claim the best weapon for himself. Even more unexpectedly, he comes face to face with Kimazuki Shiho, the same pink-haired guy he had clashed with earlier. The two of them immediately engage in another brawl, causing Guren to intervene and wonder what is going on with them. Later, Yu Uekairu and Shiho participate in a training session organized by Haneori Sayuri to prepare for the upcoming aptitude test. The students are paired up, and due to Shinoa's clever maneuvering, Yu Uekairu is reluctantly forced to team up with Shiho. During the test, they receive urgent news that Shiho's sister, Mirai, has experienced a sudden deterioration in her condition. Despite the pressing situation, Yu Uekairu offers Shiho advice, urging him not to abandon his family during their time of need. He emphasizes the importance of prioritizing their well-being over personal desires. Later, they rush to the hospital to visit Mirai, and to their relief, they discover that she has managed to pull through on that particular day, bringing a glimmer of hope to Shiho. Later, Yu Uekairu and Shiho receive poor grades due to their absence during the training session, but Shiho expresses deep gratitude towards Yu Uekairu for his support in saving his sister. Meanwhile, in another location, a gathering of noble vampires with progenitor blood takes place. During the meeting, it is revealed that the humans are conducting experiments on the Seraphs of the End once again, risking the outbreak of a plague similar to the one that occurred 8 years ago. Upon learning of these developments, Krull, the vampire queen, declares war against humans in order to prevent the catastrophic consequences that could arise from the experiments. The stage is set for a conflict between the vampires and the humans while Michaela hopes to rescue Yu Uekairu. Later, Major General Hiragi Shinya of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army addresses the concerns regarding suspicious vampire activity in the Kansai region. However, Gurren, displaying no interest, disregards the meeting. This prompts General Hiragi Tenri, the highest-ranking officer, to order Gurren to behave appropriately. Despite the command, Gurren remains indifferent and prepares to depart. He further reveals that the influential Hiragi family holds control over the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, while the Ikanos branch family, to which he belongs, holds little significance. Subsequently, Gurren crosses paths with Yu Uekairu, who launches a flying kick toward him, only to be effortlessly subdued by Gurren. In the midst of their encounter, Yu Uekairu implores Gurren to grant him a cursed gear, enabling him to exact his revenge against the vampires. Fortunately, Gurren consents, allowing Yu Uekairu to forge a contract with a demon, before leaving after delivering a striking blow to his head. Later, Yu Uekairu encounters Shinoa, who congratulates him on receiving approval to form a demon contract. Meanwhile, Michaela observes the vampire army departing for war. He decides to revisit his former home, the Hayakuya orphanage, but the children there react with fear, causing him to depart. Upon returning to school, Sayuri distributes the results of the written exams to the students. She explains that these scores will determine the rank of the cursed gear they will receive and encourages them to strive for improvement in the future. Unfortunately, Yu Uekairu receives a poor result, prompting Shinoa to playfully tease him. Undeterred, Yu Uekairu asserts that he doesn't need friends to kill vampires, while Shinoa holds the opposite view. She believes that without teamwork, he won't achieve success in the army. On the other hand, Yoichi comes to Yu Uekairu's defense, pointing out that due to being imprisoned in the vampire capital since childhood, Yu Uekairu's academic abilities are quite impressive. Suddenly, Gurren makes a dramatic entrance into the classroom, and Yu Uekairu seizes the opportunity to request cursed gear from him. Shiho also steps forward, expressing his readiness and requesting cursed gear. However, Yu Uekairu interrupts him, causing a commotion between the two of them. To Gurren's surprise, Sayuri reveals that among the students, Yoichi possesses the highest stability against demons. In a surprising turn of events, Gurren decides to adopt a unique approach and unsheathes his own cursed gear. The intense demonic pressure emanating from Gurren's weapon causes most of the students to lose consciousness. However, those who remain conscious are instructed to continue their training, while those still standing are granted the opportunity to undergo a trial for the Black Demon series, the same rank as Gurren's sword. Yu Uekairu, Shiho, and Yoichi are escorted to an underground chamber for the trial. Along the way, everyone advises Yoichi not to participate, citing concerns about his weak heart. However, Yoichi remains determined and confidently declares that he will emerge victorious. Later, Gurren leads them to a secluded area where a collection of rare Black Demon series weapons is amassed. He directs everyone to select a weapon of their preference and position themselves within the designated ritual circle. The contract ceremony is set to commence upon their touch, signifying their commitment. Success in subduing the demon will grant them its power, while failure would result in them succumbing to a malevolent and bloodthirsty transformation. With determination, Yu Uekairu, Yoichi, and Shiho step forward, prepared to make their weapon choices and embark on this perilous endeavor. In the depths of their chosen memories, all three of them become ensnared by their deepest desires. Yu Uekairu encounters his demon, who cunningly assumes the form of Michaela in an attempt to deceive him. However, this time, Yu Uekairu sees through the ruse and recognizes Michaela as the demon. He sternly commands him to relinquish his power. The demon, amused, bursts into laughter and inquires about Yu Uekairu's motivation for acquiring such power. Yu Uekairu resolutely responds that his sole purpose is to seek revenge and bring justice to his loved ones. In response, the demon agrees to grant him the power, but under the condition that Yu Uekairu dedicates himself unconditionally to his pursuit of revenge. The demon then commands Yu Uekairu to relinquish love and embrace lust, demanding that he sever his friendships with Yoichi, Shinoa, and Shiho. However, Yu Uekairu astoundingly demonstrates a paradoxical intertwining of love and lust within him. Impressed by Yu Uekairu's contradictory nature, the demon agrees to enter into a contract with him. However, he reveals a crucial condition. The demon's loyalty will match the strength of Yu Uekairu's conviction. Consequently, even the slightest wavering of Yu Uekairu's heart will result in the demon seizing control of his body. Introducing himself as Asuromaru, the demon discloses an unsettling piece of information. He informs Yu Uekairu that he possesses at least 10% of inhuman characteristics, implying that humans have been conducting experiments on him. Afterward, Asuromaru warns Yu Uekairu never to place trust in humans, as they are more terrifying than any vampire or demon. With that, the formation of their contract is complete. It is revealed that Shiho has also successfully formed a contract, but Yoichi has succumbed to a demon's possession. In response, Gurren commands Yu Uekairu and Shiho to confront the murderous and possessed Yoichi. In the midst of the chaos, Yoichi unleashes powerful arrows upon everyone. Determined to save their friend, Yu Uekairu and Shiho decide against killing him. However, their lack of experience makes it challenging for them to land a decisive blow, prompting Shinoa to implore Gurren to intervene and put an end to the madness. Meanwhile, Yu Uekairu, in a moment of desperation, drops his cursed gear and urges Yoichi to kill him. Surprisingly, Yoichi manages to regain control of his emotions and forms a contract with his own demon. Eventually, all three of them successfully navigate the trial, leading Gurren to order them, along with Shinoa, to embark on their first mission in Shinjuku. Gurren advises them to let go of the past and focus solely on the future. In the Vampire Forces camp, Michaela and his allies set their sights on Tokyo, ready to make their move. On Yu Uekairu's first day of the mission, he encounters Shinoa, who discloses that vampires from the Kansai region are plotting to reclaim Shinjuku. Together, they make their way to meet Gurren. During their conversation, Shinoa shares the tragic news of her deceased sister, Maharu. Later, Yu Uekairu, Shiho, Shinoa, and Yoichi are introduced to Sangu Mitsuba, the fifth member of their squad. Gurren issues a strict order, instructing everyone not to engage with vampires individually, and emphasizing the importance of sticking together and watching each other's backs. The team is reminded of the necessity for unity in the face of their formidable adversaries. However, Yu Uekairu boldly declares that he cannot guarantee that he will refrain from engaging in combat with a vampire if he encounters one on his own. His determination to confront his enemies head-on is evident. In a surprising turn of events, Mitsuba launches an attack on Yu Uekairu, but he skillfully evades her assault. Finally, Gurren gives them a clear directive, ordering the team to proceed to Harajuku. There, they are tasked with confronting a settlement of vampires who have been exploiting humans as personal sources of blood, revealing the grim reality of the situation. The mission ahead holds great significance as they strive to protect humanity and eradicate the inhumane practices perpetrated by these vampires. Having successfully crushed the vampire settlement in Harajuku and liberated the captive humans, their next assignment is to proceed towards Shinjuku. As they continue their journey, Mitsuba unveils a disheartening truth, defeating the weaker horsemen of the apocalypse that roam outside the warded barrier pales in comparison to the challenge posed by their stronger counterparts within the barrier. She emphasizes the importance of maintaining formation should they encounter the enemy. Suddenly, their path intersects with a heart-wrenching scene, a horseman relentlessly pursuing a frightened little girl. Despite Mitsuba's strict orders to stay in formation, Yu Uekairu defies her commands and rushes to rescue the girl. Mitsuba, suspecting that this could be a trap set by the vampires, worries about the team falling into their snare. However, with Yu Uekairu's courageous intervention and Mitsuba's assistance, they manage to save the little girl. But their act of heroism doesn't come without consequences. The group soon finds themselves under attack by three powerful vampires, their lives hanging in the balance. The decision to deviate from Mitsuba's orders may have plunged them into an even greater peril than they had anticipated. During the ambush, Yu Uekairu summons Asuromaru and gains the upper hand against the vampires. Realizing their disadvantage, the vampires call for reinforcements, prompting Mitsuba to order a retreat for the time being. Later, she scolds Yu Uekairu for his reckless behavior, but the little girl expresses her gratitude for his life-saving actions. In a conversation with Yu Uekairu, Shinoa hints at Mitsuba's troubled past but keeps the details to herself. In a flashback, it is revealed that Mitsuba, like Yu Uekairu, used to act recklessly, leading to the death of her comrade. This experience has fueled her disdain for individuals who exhibit similar behavior, explaining her frustration with Yu Uekairu's actions. Meanwhile, Shiho gathers information from the little girl about the vampire hideout, discovering that the vampires are keeping humans captive at Omotsando Station. With this crucial intel, the squad sets their sights on the station. Mitsuba reveals that if the vampires are armed, they will retreat. However, before heading to the station, Shinoa emphasizes the importance of decisively crushing the vampires without hesitation, urging the team to approach the mission with unwavering determination. Based on the information provided by the little girl, it becomes apparent that Shinoa's squad is outnumbered by the vampires, with the vampires having a numerical advantage of 7-5. The squad learns of the vampires' hideout on floor B3 and decides to charge in with full force. As they progress, they come across a distressing sight, a group of orphaned children being used as blood bags by the vampires. However, Mitsuba, disregarding the plight of the children, urges the squad to stick to the plan and continue toward floor B3. During their advance, the squad encounters a vampire, prompting Yu Uekairu to rush in alone and successfully eliminate the vampire. Mitsuba confronts him once again for going against the plan, but Yu Uekairu reveals that the vampire was unarmed and he had waited for her command to engage. Suddenly, another vampire attacks Yu Uekairu, but he swiftly dispatches him as well, leaving Mitsuba astonished by his skill. As they proceed further, the squad comes face to face with 8 vampires, and one of them captures Mitsuba. It dawns on her that the little girl deliberately misled them in order to protect her own family. Realizing the dire situation, Mitsuba orders everyone to retreat, but Yu Uekairu refuses to back down, initiating a fight against the overwhelming odds of the vampires. The battle intensifies as the squad fights to protect themselves and overcome the formidable vampire adversaries. Yu Uekairu successfully rescues Mitsuba, and with the combined efforts of the squad, they effortlessly eliminate all the vampires. As backup arrives, the orphaned children are saved from their captive state. The little girl apologizes to Yu Uekairu for deceiving him, but he reassures her that it's all right. Meanwhile, Mitsuba develops feelings for Yu Uekairu and acknowledges his bravery in saving her earlier, although she struggles to express her gratitude properly. With the situation under control, the group proceeds towards Shinjuku. Along the way, Shiho uses the hot wire method to start a truck, and they all climb in and head toward their destination. While en route, they hear a commotion coming from the Shinjuku barrier and encounter a powerful noble vampire. Initially, the noble gains the upper hand against Shinoa, but Yu Uekairu manages to disarm him just in time. Suddenly, 2 other vampire girls named Belle and Scold appear, and Shinoa orders everyone to fight, pushing them to the brink of demon possession. The noble vampire is revealed to be Yusford Crowley, but his comrades Belle and Scold take him back to Farid's location. Shinoa informs Yu Uekairu that due to his possession of the Black Demon series, he has the potential to learn powerful curses that can enhance his strength. With this knowledge, they continue their journey towards Shinjuku, ready to face the challenges that lie ahead. The vampires launch a surprise attack on the defensive barrier in Shinjuku, which is the second largest stronghold of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Additionally, a group of helicopters assaults the army, but the soldiers utilize the runic arms, a less powerful version of the cursed gear, to eliminate the enemy threat. Amidst the chaos, the Shinoa squad finds themselves ambushed by the vampires. In a critical moment, Yoichi manages to shoot down one of the helicopters, saving Corporal Nagai's platoon from certain danger. He informs them that the vampires have breached the western defensive barrier, and the counterattack squad is struggling to hold them back. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Yoichi requests the Shinoa squad to head west and join the battle against the vampire onslaught. To expedite their journey, he guides them to a truck that will transport them to their destination. With their mission clear, the Shinoa squad prepares to face the vampires head-on and defend their comrades. Furin becomes aware of the presence of vampires, including Farid and Michaela. Just as a vampire attempts to ambush Sayuri, Mito Jujo comes to her rescue and saves her. The members of the Guren squad, including Yukimi Shiger and Goshi Norito, gather together. Meanwhile, Farid tries to persuade Michaela to embrace his vampiric nature and drink human blood, but Michaela resists the idea. In a flashback, it is revealed that Krull initially forced Michaela to drink human blood, but he resisted. Eventually, Krull offered her own blood to him, and Michaela succumbed to the temptation and drank it. The scene then shifts back to Shinoa's squad, where she distributes pills to them. These pills are performance-enhancing drugs designed to facilitate synchronization with the demon and unlock its true power. However, Shinoa warns them to take only one pill, as taking more can be fatal. The effects of the pill last for only 15 minutes, and once it wears off, the user becomes completely vulnerable. Later, their truck comes under attack from a helicopter, resulting in Corporal Nagai getting injured. Fortunately, Yoichi uses his bow to shoot down the helicopter, but the squad gets split into two groups. Yu Uekairu, Shinoa, and Nagai find themselves in a subway, while the other three members are separated on the other side. In another location, Gurren confronts Michaela. Yu Uekairu and Shinoa bring Corporal Nagai to a shelter above ground, ensuring his safety. Meanwhile, Gurren activates his cursed gear, the Demon Blade Maharu no Yo, to engage in a fierce battle against the vampires led by Farid. In the midst of the chaos, Yu Uekairu reflects on a flashback involving Michaela and realizes that the outside world is far from being a paradise. After successfully rescuing Corporal Nagai, Shinoa and Yu Uekairu make their way to the main intersection of West Shinjuku's 5th District to join forces with Gurren. However, they discover that the other members of the Shinoa squad are currently engaged in a battle against the vampires at Shinjuku Central Park. Despite Shinoa's hesitation, Yu Uekairu decides to head to Central Park to assist his friends. Meanwhile, Farid gives orders to Lacus and Rene to gather the other vampires, while granting Michaela the opportunity to face Gurren alone. As the scene transitions, Yu Uekairu and Shinoa successfully arrive at Central Park, where they find Shiho overwhelmed by the vampires. Yu Uekairu intervenes just in time, saving everyone from the dire situation. In a desperate attempt to turn the tides of the battle, Gurren decides to take a second pill, hoping to gain an advantage against Michaela. However, before he can consume it, Michaela launches a swift attack, injuring Gurren. Just as the situation seems dire, the Shinoa squad arrives, providing much-needed support. Yu Uekairu, driven by his determination to protect Gurren, charges forward and stabs Michaela with his weapon. Unaware of the truth about Michaela's nature as a vampire, the attack momentarily incapacitates Michaela, allowing Yu Uekairu to secure a temporary advantage. However, as the dust settles, the truth about Michaela's vampiric existence becomes apparent to Yu Uekairu. Shocked and conflicted, Yu Uekairu must now grapple with the consequences of his actions and the revelation that his childhood friend has become a vampire. In the midst of the chaotic battle, Yu Uekairu is torn between his loyalty to the humans and his long-lost friend, Michaela. As they reunite, Yu Uekairu hesitates to kill Michaela, unable to bring himself to harm someone he once considered family. However, Gurren intervenes, forcefully throwing Michaela aside and berating Yu Uekairu for not activating the curse to kill the enemy. At this moment, Michaela realizes that Yu Uekairu is still human and chooses to save him instead of fighting against the humans. However, Farid interferes, taking advantage of the situation and deciding to assist Michaela in saving Yu Uekairu. Farid engages in combat against the humans, further escalating the battle. To everyone's surprise, Crowley, another powerful vampire, arrives on the battlefield, causing Farid to order him to eliminate the humans. In the midst of the chaos, Gurren gives the order for their group to retreat to the second defensive line for their safety. However, Farid cunningly lures Yu Uekairu away from the others, prompting Gurren to intervene. In a fierce clash, Farid sends both Gurren and Yu Uekairu flying away, leaving them vulnerable and separated from the rest of their allies. The battle rages on between the vampires and the humans, with Gurren being overpowered by Farid's relentless attacks. Farid, driven by his sadistic nature, decides to taste Yu Uekairu's blood, but Michaela intervenes and slashes Farid's arm to protect his friend. As Michaela attempts to carry Yu Uekairu away from the battlefield, Yu Uekairu interrupts him, their conflicting emotions and loyalties clashing in this critical moment of the battle. As the intense battle continues, Michaela reveals to Yu Uekairu that he has become a vampire, and tries to persuade him to join him, claiming that humans are wretched creatures. Meanwhile, Shinoa finds herself ambushed by Crowley, and the rest of her squad falls victim to the vampire's bites. Crowley, in turn, bites Shinoa, causing Yu Uekairu to lose control of his own powers. Unleashing the monster within him, Yu Uekairu begins to relentlessly attack Crowley, determined to defeat him. However, Crowley manages to escape. Meanwhile, Shinoa regains consciousness and is confronted by an aggressive Yu Uekairu. Just as Yu Uekairu's attack seems imminent, Michaela arrives in the nick of time, saving Shinoa from harm. Shinoa embraces Yu Uekairu, hoping to bring him back to his senses. Through her touch, Yu Uekairu regains his consciousness, but he quickly becomes unconscious. In the midst of the chaos, reinforcements from the Japanese Imperial Demon Army, led by Hiragi Kurido, finally arrive at the scene. Their timely arrival brings a new dynamic to the battle, potentially turning the tide in favor of the humans. The situation becomes even more intense as the clash between the vampires and the humans escalates with the arrival of the army's backup. As Shinoa delves deeper into the underground facility, she witnesses the gruesome extermination of both vampires and humans. The sight shocks her, and she seeks out Guren for answers. Guren, unexpectedly, admits that humans are a fragile species and that the experiments they have been conducting are aimed at completing Hiragi Maharu's work on the infernal arms. He acknowledges Shinoa's growing attachment to Yu Uekairu and advises her to stay by his side if she truly loves him. This revelation leaves Shinoa with conflicting emotions and a renewed determination to wake Yu Uekairu from his unconscious state. In a flashback, it is revealed that the vampire forces were ultimately forced to retreat from the battle. Meanwhile, in the vampire city, all the vampires have been successfully healed and are regrouping. Later, Lacus and Rene, two vampire soldiers, disclose important information. They reveal that the humans have been delving into forbidden magic known as the Seraph of the End, a power that has the potential to bring about the destruction of the world. Additionally, they confess that their primary objective was to retrieve Yu Uekairu, but they failed in their mission. This revelation adds a new layer of complexity and urgency to the ongoing conflict between humans and vampires. After a week of being unconscious, Yu Uekairu awakens to find his friend Yoichi sleeping beside him. They share a brief moment before Shinoa visits him. Yu Uekairu confesses that he has no recollection of what happened during the battle. Shinoa explains that the army was successful in capturing most of the vampires, excluding the powerful nobles who managed to escape. She then reveals the disheartening news that Michaela was also taken back by the vampires. This revelation stirs conflicting emotions within Yu Uekairu, but he finds solace in knowing that Michaela is alive. Shortly after, their friends Yoichi, Shiho, and Mitsuba visit Yu Uekairu in the hospital. Yu Uekairu expresses his gratitude for their unwavering support and help throughout the ordeal. They reaffirm their bond and promise to rescue each other from their respective predicaments. Meanwhile, Guren is seen writing a letter to an undisclosed recipient, hinting at his involvement in a secretive plan. At the same time, Farid hands over research data to his unidentified partner, suggesting their collaboration in some undisclosed scheme. These hints of hidden agendas and secretive activities add intrigue to the unfolding story.